You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. Hogs, wild hogs, they're an issue, right? Yeah, they're everywhere. They're certainly an issue for landowners and farmers. Well, the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce is trying their best to put a dent in it. And they are, in fact, putting a dent in the problem. And we're going to hear about that today from Chris McDonald here on the show.
Mississippi Outdoors is sponsored by Entergy Mississippi. Entergy is building a stronger and cleaner grid to power a brighter future and protect our great outdoors for generations to come.
You're listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Wyatt. Today, our guest is Chris McDonald from the Mississippi Department of Ag and Commerce here on the show. We're going to talk some wild hogs. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you and I were kind of discussing a little bit earlier. You are heavily involved up to your neck over at MDAC in the wild hog issue here in Mississippi. How'd you get into that?
Well, Commissioner Andy Gibson was appointed Commissioner of Ag and Commerce in 2018. And when he came into office, he had a passion of wanting to help farmers fight this nuisance animal. And I was on staff at that time. I joined the agency in 2016. Of course, having a wildlife background, he and I started talking. He said, we got to do something to help the farmers, help landowners, whatnot. And at that time, the agency didn't have any regulatory authority or any authority at all to start a program like this. So, without having that authority, he had an idea, let's have a contest just to make just some recognition, start the conversation, a renewed conversation about how bad this animal is. So
and that was 2016?
That was 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, I joined the agency in 2016.
Okay.
He became commissioner in 2018.
Okay.
In 2019, we started what we called the Commissioner's Wild Hog Challenge. And what we did there is kind of had a little contest to open up to the public, show us the most hogs captured on your property and the biggest. And at that point, we partnered with Wildlife Dominion Management, a Mississippi company out of Crawford, Mississippi. It makes trouts and the hog eye camera system. So they donated some trouts to us, and that was the prize for whoever caught the biggest, whoever for the most, or had the most capture. We did that twice. And at that point, commissioners really got into it. It's like, we need to do more. And so we went to the legislature and asked for authority to really start a program to help farmers. So we got the legislative authority, but no funding. So it's kind of common. So we had to be creative. And luckily, our friends at the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, very in tune with what the problem was. So they actually helped get us started on equipment. They donated 10 smart traps to the program. And since then, we've kind of built what we've got now, and that's how it started.
And Mississippi, the first, is it the only, and it was the first that state in the union where you had the Department of Ag and Commerce involved in wild hogs?
To my knowledge, there's never been or now a state ag agency led wild hog program like this. Of course, you have federal programs with USDA, APHIS. You got state wildlife agencies like MDWFP, but no state ag agency. So we're, to our knowledge, we're the first in the nation to do something like this from a pure ag standpoint.
What has been the reaction from the farmers and those that you've worked with at MDAC to this?
Very well, very good reception. One problem is, trapping is expensive. Some of these traps can cost $8,000, $10,000 to get started. So that's one hurdle is just being able to afford the equipment.
Yeah.
One thing I'm proud of, we've got limited equipment. We got 36 traps that we loan out to landowners. But one thing I'm very proud of is we provide the technical guidance on how to use the traps. We'll supply you all the equipment. The user has to supply the labor, the use of the trap, and we teach you how to use it. So we'll deliver it to you, help you get it set up, and we're, walking hand in hand with you while you're trapping. because it's always remote by smartphone. So we can monitor everything 24/7 and help you through the process if you don't have any experience. So when we leave, we provided that technical guidance to the land manager on how to trap. And we have a lot of people go out at that point, purchase their own traps, and they've got the experience at that point, and we can pay it forward to the next landowner that doesn't have the equipment or the knowledge.
You touched on this a little bit, but the program, here we are, 2025. How much has it grown in terms of how many traps and how many people you're able to help versus the beginning?
Like I said, we started out with authority, but no budget. So our friends at Farm Bureau Federation donated 10 traps. Then we had, I think, 2 additional traps donated by the Mississippi Pork Producers Association.
Okay.
Their interest is, they're for domesticated swine, not wild hogs, because all the diseases they carry, they want to do with their part to keep it from getting in domesticated herd. So they gave us 2 traps. So that got us started. Then we were able to get a federal grant with the help of Senator Cindy Hatch Smith. Got a large grant back in 22 or 23. And that really got us set up with all the equipment that we needed, hire new personnel. And that really solidified our loan program, the equipment program.
That's great.
And since then, because of that grant, we had extra money. It was like, what do we want to do something that's creative that hadn't ever been done before? So there again, we partnered with Wildlife Dominion Management, a company in Crawford, and partnered with Mississippi Future Farmers of America, FFA. So what we did there is provide grant money to FFA chapters that are ag-oriented organizations, but youth. So our idea was to create some type of workforce development program and helping landowners at the same time. So what we did is created our what we call our Wild Hog Control Program, Youth Trapping Corps. And I think we're working with 23 schools right now. We funded each school somewhere between $25,000 to $32,000 each.
Wow.
Each school. So we provided that funding to purchase traps, build their own traps, because these kids, if they're in FFA, they're in ag science class. I mean, when me and you were in high school, it was OTEC back then, but now it's ag science.
Okay.
So these are the hands-on students in the classroom right now. And we thought if we couldn't be successful with those type of kids, we're not going to be successful. So these kids they can use their hands, they get dirty, they can use a welder machine, drive a tractor. So we wanted to start with them. And it all comes down to their teacher. I mean, my son was in Brandon High School, FFA, had a great teacher. We are partnering with them on this program. Unfortunately, it came after my son was there. He didn't get to participate, but we're in there. It's a workforce development program teaching these kids workforce skills, welding, fabrication, working with landowners, how to do a business plan. I mean, what we want these chapters to do is take this money, get the startup money, basically a startup infusion for a business, then develop that business model to go out and start that trapping business, work with the landowner. And we encourage the landowners we encourage the school to charge for the service. And we encourage the landowner to pay that service to help support the local FFA chapter. So we do not take any of that revenue if any is generated. We want that to go back to the FFA chapter and continue supporting that chapter in the trapping service.
Yeah. So MDAC, with that money, it's planting a seed and then pouring water to it, but you're not asking for anything in return, really.
No. The only thing we ask is how many animals are trapped.
The data.
We want the data.
What kind of data are you getting?
Basically just how many are trapped and the gender of each, tracking that. The other data we collect, we are working with USDA Wildlife Services under APHIS, helping them do some disease surveillance. Will help get biological samples. But our number one priority with our program is just trapping animals and removing them. We want them to go. MSU and MDWFP, they're the researchers, but when we started this program, my boss commissioner said, I don't want to study them. We know they're bad. We just want to get rid of them. So that's our number one goal. If we can do other things while we're doing it, we'll be happy to assist, but our number one goal is try to get rid of them.
Now, and Chris, you were at MDWFP for a good period of time, right?
It's almost 13 years.
13 years.
Yep.
And so you're kind of in a unique position then. Yes. There's the commissioner, Andy Gibson, he's saying, look, we won't get rid of them. You have experience and relationships with like the agency here at MDWFP. So you kind of Johnny on the spot for this at the time that it came along, weren't you? And
it fits my background perfect. When I was growing up, I couldn't make my mind up what I wanted to do. I grew up on a large cattle farm, so I like livestock, like cattle production and whatnot. And on the other side, deer hunting, that was my passion. That's what I want. When we're either working cows or deer hunting, and that's what I wanted to do. But I couldn't make my mind up. And back then, I wanted to be a wildlife biologist, but you had to go 4 years of forestry first. I was like, I don't care about forestry. I don't want to be a forester. I was like, being from a cattle background, I was like, let's go to vet school, do something like that. And the high school that I went to didn't have to study a whole lot going through high school, so I didn't know how to study. So I got to Mississippi State University, and they stuck me in like the third level chemistry class, pre-vet. Like, that didn't work out. I had the worst chemistry professor on campus, I think. And it's like, this is not going to happen. So at that point, went animal science, got degrees in that. When I got out, took a job, and it really wasn't what I wanted to do. I still had the passion for wildlife. Made a call, said what I need to do to work for the agency. Said, you have a master's, but you got the wrong master's. So you got to go back and get another one if you want to work for us.
Wow. And
at that time, Larry Caswell was, I think he's either the deer program coordinator, or he may have been the chief of wildlife at that time. So I called him and said, what I need to do just to get opportunities. You got to go back to school. So luckily, me and my wife lived close enough to Starkville that I could go back. And took a master's position under Steve Damaris, which you had on here recently. So I studied deer management under him, and the opportunity arose to come work for this agency. And got to be a field biologist and worked up the ranks to when I left, I was assistant director of Wildlife Bureau. And say all of that, I went to ag, and I have ag background and wildlife background. So my job now lets me merge all of that together.
Yeah.
Whether it being just strict ag policy at the federal standpoint or helping farmers get rid of wild hogs.
Yeah.
And working with this agency, still got a lot of friends over here. No bridges were burned when I left. We worked great together. So just a great opportunity for me to blend all my background together.
From Carroll County
to
Jackson. And all points.
I actually went from Carroll County to Starkville, MSU, went to Brookhaven.
Okay. Yeah.
Then married my wife. Well, I actually went to Aberdeen before I went to Brookhaven.
Okay.
Left Aberdeen, went to Brookhaven. Economy tanked about that time, about 08, 09. And at that time, my wife unfortunately got laid off, and they sent her plant to Mexico. So it's like, we got a nest egg built up. We'll be okay for a little bit. 6 months later, it's like, we got to do something. So the economy was bad at that point. So she got a job in Forest, Mississippi. And it's like, and fortunately, Jackson with MDWFP at that time, they had an opening. I applied for and got, so we moved to Jackson. And
the rest is history.
So it's been a journey.
This is one of those things, and you may tell me I'm not crazy. Maybe I am. I drive 82 all the time, coming right through Carroll County. Somewhere there around Stewart, I'm convinced that I saw a big dead one that had to have been hog, that had to have been hit by a car.
It wouldn't surprise me. They're everywhere. They're in all counties.
Well, and the idea of seeing one on the side of the road as hit by a car, you just don't think of that. But I think probably that speaks to just how numerous they are and how many there are, even right there where you're from.
Yeah, I think back in probably about late 1980s, I think they were in about 23 counties statewide. Of course, now they're in every county. And there's too many of them now. Just they're so prolific. They can have 2 or 3 litters a year. And I don't know if we'll ever eradicate them, but we're more in the management process right now. They're just try to remove as many as we can.
Yeah. From your perspective, you can kind of see it, through the eyes of a farmer, through the eyes of an outdoorsman, a hunter. Mm-hmm. They're a nuisance and a problem for everybody. How is it different for the farmer than it is maybe for the hunter landowner? Or is it different?
There is a difference. It's a huge difference. More for the hunter that provides recreation. I may be deer hunting and you see the wild hogs come across. It just gives me an opportunity as a hunter, which unfortunately that gives value to that animal. We don't want to, as a ag community, from a landowner standpoint, we want, if anything, negative value on that animal. We want to get rid of them because they're so destructive. All the property damage that they produce, competition with wildlife, whether it be ground nesting birds, white-tailed deer. There's a lot of competition there between natural resources and ag. But the farmers, they're costing farmers money. Especially row croppers. You can go in today and plant 100 acres of corn, and that night they'll follow that planter right down the road.
Right down the road.
And you get up the next morning and go out there, the kernels are gone.
I saw a video that MDA, Department of Ag and Commerce shared. This might have been a year or two ago, but it was like a drone flyover of someone's field.
Yep.
And down the row, it looked like a person had come through there with a shovel and just dug it up right down the road, row after row after row.
So if it costs you, $500-$600 an acre to plant corn or whatever the crop is, and you got to come back and plant it 2 or 3 times because of these animals, that's a huge loss to the farmer.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially with the economy today and inflation and input costs, and it's a real tough time to be a farmer, let alone having to fight an animal like this. So that's the contrast. Hunters like them because they give you another animal to pursue. Farmers despise them. It's costing them money and their livelihood. So
yeah. So for those listening to this podcast, the hunter, what's your message to them?
Do not put value on this animal. It is a very bad nuisance animal. It's defined as a nuisance animal by state law. So don't do anything to promote this animal, and don't fight trying to get rid of it. I know it is fun. I testified it. I've shot them as a hunter. It's fun, but the damage that they cause just outweighs the sport of it. So just if there's any regulations that's proposed and the legislation that's proposed that fight them, please support it.
What might be the, beyond support, what might be the call to action if someone is listening that says, you know what, I want to get in touch. I want one of those traps. Okay. I want to learn.
That's the number one thing. If you truly want to help us as a community, as a state, start trapping. That's the number one method that's going to save us. That's the number one most effective method of control right now is trapping. So if you truly want to help, go in with, if you can't afford yourself a trap, go in with your neighbors. You have deer management cooperatives. Started wild hog trapping cooperative with your neighbors if you can't afford it. Because the home range size of these animals can be fairly large. So if you got 40, 50, 200 acres, it's going to be smaller than the home range. So at that point, just like deer management, apply it to the home range. Get with your neighbors. Go in and split a trap with 4 or 5 neighbors, and cost you $1,000 a piece at that point. So start trapping if you have a problem. If you can't afford it, call us. And we've got traps. Contact USDA Wildlife Services. Contact MDWFP. Just number one thing is get active in trapping if you can.
Yeah. You know, as far as that first step, is it pick up the phone and call? Is it get online?
Yeah, we got a website. If you just Google Mississippi Department of Ag, go to our website there. There's a picture of a pig right there in the middle of the website, webpage. Click on it, and it gives you all the information to contact us. And if we can't help you, maybe we know somebody that can.
From a school standpoint, involved with the school, FFA chapters around the state, that's probably something you've already got your hands on at every school.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. We do have a web page devoted to the Youth Trapping Corps. We've got an interactive map that you can see where the active chapters are. And if you're in that area, or whoever you want to contact, the teacher's contact information is online. You can reach out to them, and if you need help in that area and support the chapter at the same time, all of that information is on our website. So call us, at this point, I'd really like for them to call the school first before they call us. I really want the kids get active in this and help support what they're doing and teach them life skills while they're doing it. If we're promoting one thing right now, me personally, is our youth program.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of an investment in this issue going forward too. It's not a short-term solution. It's going to be a generational thing regardless, isn't it?
I mean, with our program, we've got 3 people, me as administrator and 2 field positions. If you look at our youth program, it may be 20 to 100 kids in one FFA chapter. And it's 20, through the future of the program, that grows pretty quick. And like I said, just hopefully planting the seed for our future trappers. I mean, it's hard to find a good trapper these days, whether it be in, fur bearers or nuisance animals. So hopefully we can hope get some of that instilled back in youth.
Yeah.
Like when I grew up hunting, we trapped raccoons before we went to high school, before a class started during the day. So not a whole lot of kids get that opportunity now. So, so we're doing everything we can to promote it through the youth program.
Well, it's a really cool program. I know that. I've enjoyed hearing you talk about it, learning about it, and just appreciate what you and folks are doing there at Department of Ag and Commerce, especially on behalf of the farmers and landowners, what you're doing. And so just appreciate you sharing it with us and being here, Chris. Great to talk to you.
I appreciate it. And like I said, you can, go to our website, all of our contact information there. Just be happy to help whoever we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's Chris McDonald with the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce. Appreciate you listening to the Mississippi Outdoors Podcast, and we'll see you outdoors.